Hey y'all, welcome back to Valhalla Acres. Today we are going to be processing dried beans, and we're going to be using in my pretty beat up Ball Blue book of canning. This is the most recent Ball Blue book, and in here we're going to be following the directions for beans or peas that are dried. So you'll see the directions here. They talk about boiling it for an hour and then rinsing them. So instead of doing that, what we did is we soaked them overnight. And that's okay. You can either do a quick soak or an overnight soak. And I just chose to do an overnight soak. Okay, and then our next step is to wash the beans. And then we bring them to a boil for 30 minutes. And then I like to rinse them off one more time and then process them while they're still hot. So I just pour them off and rinse them off with hot water, and then we pack them in the jars. So when it comes to canning dry beans, there are multiple ways that folks have said, oh, just do this, just do that. I'm going to show you the most recent approved and tested way to can dry beans. Previously, folks would put 1/3 of a dry bean into the jar and fill it the rest of the way with water and then process. However, remember, canning is a science. That results in like a really dense clump in the middle of the jar or at the bottom of the jar that can be too dense for the heat to pass through effectively enough to render it safe. And so the new and most up-to-date recommendation is to rehydrate your beans completely before doing the process. So the first part of that is to let your beans either soak overnight in water, or you can do like a quick soak. Either way, you want your bean to be rehydrated. That doesn't mean your bean's going to be mushy, because a mushy bean is a cooked bean. A rehydrated bean is one that's kind of, it has some give to it. Think about if you eat a fresh green bean, or if you've had green beans in your garden that have gone too long and they have the seeds now, and you eat that seed, it's going to be kind of toothsome. So that's what you're going for, okay? So we're going to soak these in water overnight. That's my preferred method. And then we will come back and I will show you where we go from there. Okay, so our beans have soaked overnight. I did red kidney beans and some white, like Great Northern beans for my brother because he loves them. And I did some black beans because they're my favorite. So we let them soak overnight. Our beans are rehydrated. And then I'm going to take these and I'm going to pour them over here. And I'm just going to rinse these off. And then after I rinse them off, they're going to go in this pot where the white beans are now. And the white beans, I'm going to bring them to a boil. And I'm going to let them kind of simmer boil for about 30 minutes. And then I like to just dump off the water again. Like I said, maybe give them a quick rinse. And then I'm going to put them back in the pot if I have room in the pot, but I needed it. So I put my hot red kidney beans right here in this pan, in this bowl. And these guys are ready to go into the jars. For our jars, we have them here. I already have them full of hot water because we're going to be processing them hot today. Okay, my canner's over here. I added my 3 quarts of water to it. I'm going to go ahead and get that warming up. So while I am loading my jars in here, or loading the beans into the jars, then I can go ahead and put them in here. It's 1 inch of Headspace, so I'm going to fill it with beans to 1 inch. And then I'm going to take hot water in my kettle and just heat it up. And I'm going to add that to top it off. You can add salt to them if you want. I don't, because I never know exactly how I'm going to season them when I open them up. And then we're going to process them. These are pints, so they're just like meat. It's going to be 75 minutes for pints, okay? Stay tuned. Okay, so I just dumped out these couple of jars of their hot water because I don't want them to cool down too much. And then I have, there's a You can use a ladle or whatever you have to scoop out your hot beans. Just get them into your jar. Oh, that's way too many. That's okay, because we're gonna just dump it back in there. Okay, and then I dumped out too much. So we want our 1 inch of headspace for our bean. And we take water from our kettle. And we're going to fill that up. Also, oops, to the 1 inch. And then we're going to take something plastic, wooden, and we're just going to kind of push it around in here and make sure that we don't have any air bubbles, okay? Now this is where you could add salt to it if you'd like. And then you take a paper towel, and you can put vinegar on it or just water, and we want to carefully go around, wipe off our rim. We're going to get our already washed flat lid. Carefully put that on there. Remember, we're not heating those up anymore. We're boiling them because they changed the formula on it, and we don't want that sealing compound to run off. I'm going to take our ring, and we're going to put it on there. Remember, just finger tight. That's all we have to do. And then remember, like I said, we're going to go straight up, come over to the canner, and we're going to go straight down into the canner. We don't want to tip it either way. And then I'm going to repeat the process for all of these beans, and then we'll get the canner up to pressure. As you can tell on the jar that over here on the right hand side, I didn't have quite enough beans. It only filled it to about there. So what happens? What do you do when you don't have enough bean in this situation to come to the correct headspace? You add more water or broth, whatever you're putting over the top of it, okay? You want your headspace to still stay 1 inch. Okay, I have all of my jars filled, and they're all in the canner. We're ready to rock and roll. So remember, here's our lid. I've already checked the gasket. I'm looking through the hole. Yeah, it's nice and clear. Okay. And we put the lid on. And then we wait for it to build up steam. And let it vent steam for 10 minutes. And then we'll put on our regulator. And then it'll start building pressure. And once it hits 15 psi for our altitude, that's when I will start my timer for 75 minutes because I'm doing quarts. Or pints. I'm not doing quarts, I'm doing pints. Alright, so the timer went off probably about 20 minutes ago. We turned off the stove and we're letting it slowly come down on its own. So remember, we're not going to play with anything on here. Just let it come down to 0. And after it comes down to 0, the lid lock will fall down, and we're going to let it sit for about 5 minutes. Then we'll pull this, and we'll let it sit for about 5 more minutes to make sure any extra steam has escaped before we take off the lid so we don't burn ourselves. The moment of truth. We've got everything all cooled off. And now we need to open this. Ooh, they look good. Oops, set this over here. Alright, now remember when I said on the meat canning video, you're going to still see some action going on inside the jars? And that's totally normal. Look how yummy those beans look. So remember, we're going to lift them straight up and straight down. Even if they have water on top of them, because we don't want to tip them. Although these have sealed, not all of them have. And they'll slowly seal. Now, we're going to put them here on this towel, or you can use a dish draining mat. But we're going to set them here, and it's going to stay relatively the same temperature. I mean, it's going to slowly cool overnight in the house. But we want to keep them out of a draft and all that. And we're going to let them sit for 12 hours. And then in 12 hours, we can check their seals, wash them up, and label them and put them away. And if we have some that haven't sealed by that point, we can reprocess them with the new lid, okay, the new flat part. Or we can put them in the fridge, or just Heat them up and eat them. But you have a 24-hour window to reprocess any jars that haven't sealed. Happy canning, everybody. Okay, so I already wished you all happy canning, but I wanted to point out one more thing to you. So remember, we filled these to 1 inch of Headspace, and this is why Headspace is so important. So you can see here on the red kidney beans how they absorbed some more water as they cooked. That's why we have Headspace. It allows for the food to swell as it cooks and still leave room for an adequate vacuum. And it looks crazy. It's like a weird bean lava lamp right now. Anyway, if Trajan was awake, he would tell you all to like this video, and if you really liked it, to give it 10 thumbs up. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let us know if there's any questions that you have. I will put my Instagram, Facebook, and email address, all that information in the description. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out, and we'll see you next time.